The following is a Podcast One Minnesota production.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, you betcha, yeah.
If it's made in Minnesota, who's making it and how?
Yeah, you got that right.
It's the Makers of Minnesota, focusing on the products and services uniquely made in Minnesota, and conversations with the makers, entrepreneurs, and innovators in Minnesota about how they conceived of their products and how they brought them to market. With Stephanie Hansen, it's the Makers of Minnesota.
Hi, it's Stephanie Hansen, and you're listening to the Makers of Minnesota podcast, where we talk to people in Minnesota doing cool things. We love our food makers, and we've got Mary Leonard here from Chocolat Celeste. And Mary, you have been making artisanal chocolates and just beautifully designed chocolates in the Twin Cities for, it's got to be over 10 years.
Actually, it's 17 years now.
Oh, okay. So a long time.
A long time.
I first came across your chocolates. Gosh, I don't even know. Maybe Pat Lindquist brought them to me at some point. You are a beautiful, beautiful chocolate maker, and you've got a facility over in St. Paul. How did you get into the chocolate making business?
Well, I think it's a somewhat long story, but I had majored in food science and nutrition when I was in college, and I always wanted to create a product. And over time, it became something that was evolving in me, and I was thinking about it. And it wasn't always chocolate, but it ended up being chocolate. And after the .com, I had been day trading.
Yep.
And then I decided, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? I was 46 at the time. And I said, now it's the time to manifest whatever I want to do in terms of creating a product. And I wanted to be a really good, fresh product, as well as I wanted it to use my other skills as far as my ability to vision beautiful things. And I like the fact that I like jewelry and art and fashion.
Yep.
And it's all in some ways combined in this product, of that it being a great product, plus that it's a really great visual experience. So that was what my intention was, and to create a website for that, and it all culminated in 2001.
And so you make truffles.
I make truffles, and then I also make bonbons, which have a chocolate ganache filling in them as well, but they are the ones with images on them, and they are cocoa butter images. My current line has as a set of images that are simulated cacao pods. In fact, one is the flower that grows off the tree, of the trunk of the tree of the cacao plant.
So when someone gets a box of your chocolates, and I buy them every Valentine's Day for my daughter, she's crazy about them actually, you're going to get like 6 or 12 or 18 or 24. I know you've got all different sizes. But they're these very beautifully designed chocolates. And I know at St. Patrick's Day, sometimes you've had infusions with local. Who was it that you worked with last year for the infused St. Patrick's Day chocolates?
It was actually the year before that. I worked with Kieran Folliard with Two Gingers whiskey, and that was in the Christmas or in the St. Patrick's Day one, as well as there were other things that I did that year. The following year, I did Two Gingers whiskey and Tullamore Dew, and one called Hellcat Maggie. And all of them, I looked them up on actually YouTube to listen to their stories about how they were created. And each one had a very interesting backstory associated with who created it, or the story behind why they named it that way. And so I kind of played off of that with the collection I created.
So you sell your product online and you have your own retail location, but you don't sell to other retailers, do you?
I don't sell to other retailers because it is a fresh product. And I want to assure that anytime someone buys it, that they're getting the best possible chocolate experience. A lot of chocolates that are out there in grocery stores, etc., have preservative in them, or high fructose corn syrup as their preservative, and ours are fresh whipping cream and butter, and that we use really high cocoa content chocolate as well. And I think that it's a visual experience, but as well as that, it's a real flavor experience that not everyone in the United States is used to having.
Are you mostly selling then through your website or people that are literally coming to the store in St. Paul?
It's about 50-50. There are 50% of the people actually buy large quantities of chocolates that they're giving for gifting as far as their business is concerned, as thank you or Christmas or a big recognition event. And I do customize some of their things that way to both match their brand but also match a color scheme that they're having for an event. And then I do 50% comes in through the front door, and those people are generally buying gifts for individuals. And it's a lot of the business is at Christmas, and a lot of it is at Valentine's Day.
I'm impressed that you're here because it's a little bit after Thanksgiving, so this has to be getting to be your busy season.
It is getting to the busy season, but it's the 17th year. And I'm a little spooked, but it's really, really well organized this year.
Good for you.
And we're just clipping along, and I just think it's just all going to happen very easily this year.
Is it hard to find staff because you are manufacturing at your own facility?
Yes, it is a little bit hard, particularly now with the unemployment rate being 3.3%.
Right.
So I do get a lot of students that are from the University of Minnesota Food Science Department. And they're not necessarily going to be in food service, but it is their first job. And then they learn from me, the process of making a product. They learn about chocolate, and they learn about equipment. I teach them the accounting and cash management and marketing. And so it's an all-encompassing experience. So I think most of them are pretty pleased afterwards. I think that over a course of the year, they're totally different people.
Is chocolate more competitive than it used to be? It feels like there's been a lot of emphasis on local and custom chocolatiers in the last, 5 to 7 years. I remember at Certix isn't a good example. You used to go in and they'd have, a couple chocolate bars, and now they've got just a huge section of it.
I think that there is a huge level of competition at the chocolate bar level.
Okay.
Not so much as the individual chocolates. And I think that there will be, like in other things that are coming out, I think that there'll be a washout of some people as well as whether they can survive or not.
Yeah. Go ahead. You can cough. It's no big deal. Oh, okay. So I can imagine that when you are at the chocolate bar level and it's a competitive environment.
I think there are people that are actually bean to bar, and then there are other people that are using already manufactured chocolate and adding things to it. So there's two different camps.
Yeah. And when you, from just being getting into the food science business yourself, I'm maybe just making this up, but I would imagine that being a woman was kind of an unusual thing in the day. Was it?
No, I don't really think so. I think that in general, it's really, there are a lot of women that are chocolatiers, but I think what is different about it is that how you're viewed as a woman in the chocolate business versus a man in the chocolate business. There's a certain higher level of respect for the men for some reason.
Yeah.
Because they say, oh, they were a chef. And I don't necessarily look at that as a good thing or a bad thing.
It's just a thing, but that is interesting and a good observation.
For me in the chocolate business, it is that a lot of what I do has a lot of science behind it, and knowing how things actually work, and how crystals are formed and
flavor profiles,
and it wouldn't be necessarily something you would know as a line cook or someone that does meat or anything like that. And also, there still remained a little bit of thoughts that, maybe you're the little woman and you're just playing with this because, it's a cute product and, that, oh, do you make these at home in your basement?
Yeah.
And for me, being a really independent woman, the hair on my back used to go up a little bit when that would be, because, I'll be honest, I was a director of a marketing department at a telecommunications company. I'd worked in food for a long time, and then I had, through a recipe database, I had switched to being IT. and I made over $200,000 a year. And when it came to being the little woman, I wasn't really very much of the little woman, and it was hard. It was hard. And you're seeing it right now with all the things that are happening in the news with women and,
and
prejudice and things like that. And I think it was pretty heavy when I started in the chocolate business. And I don't know if, I'm older than some in the business, and I hope that those things are changing now.
We talked, you're the first person to actually bring that up in this context, and I'm glad. Someone, I'll just use my husband as an example because we've had a lot of conversations about it, and he's so surprised at the level and the magnitude and how many, and I'm just not surprised at all.
Oh, I'm not surprised at all.
And I said, what I think is surprising to me is the level with which you're shocked. You know what I mean? This has been going on for centuries and years, and
absolutely.
Anytime someone,
I left a major job because of it, and at the time it was, why was I making a big deal about it?
Yeah, and you were crazy or unstable or whatever.
No, it wasn't that. It was that the person that was above me, the man, they considered him to be more of an executive, even though he was the one that was doing all of these unsavory things.
Right.
And I felt that wasn't an environment that I wanted to be in, and I couldn't I really didn't try to convince the person above that person who was a commissioner to have it be different. I just decided I was too exhausted from it, and I simply left.
Yeah.
And it turned out fine. I got a much better job and went on to better things. But, I did walk away because of it, and I think a lot of people do, and people don't realize it.
Have you, since you've had your business, have you grown steadily every year? Because you really seem...
I think that from the first, I think that I'm a very stubborn individual, and I always want things to be evolving, and that if I'm not evolving, I'm bored.
Yeah.
And so that the chocolate was originally a round truffle, and now it has evolved to being a much more artful experience. I know at the beginning they tasted fabulous and they looked fabulous, but now it's gone to be, a cut above. I don't think there's any other chocolate in the Twin Cities that quite has this artfulness to it, that you could look at it and you go, oh my goodness, how much work goes into this as well.
And when you speak about the artfulness, I'm assuming that you're speaking of not only the exterior packaging, but the literal design on the chocolates themselves.
The literal designs on the chocolates, as well as, it's also part of the ingredients are part of the artisanal movement.
Sure. Yep.
And I strongly believe that I should never change that about my company, because that would be, people ask me, will I compromise to have it go in grocery stores?
Yeah.
And really, no, I don't want to compromise. I don't want to have a product that I'm not proud of, and that I can't say to somebody that you're eating the best of what's out there.
Have you been approached by anybody that was interested in purchasing your company? You've been doing it so long.
I had been approached by one individual, and there's a chain of fudge shops in Michigan and Chicago and in all the little resorts towns. It's called Kerwin's, and it's a great family business. But when he wanted to buy it, but he wanted me to still be the founder, the owner. And in my heart, I wouldn't have been able to stay, and that I wasn't really done with my journey in the product.
Right.
I'm getting closer to that, but I still don't think that I want to give up.
That's amazing, considering that you've been doing it for 17 years. You still wake up and think, I've got a good idea for this, or wouldn't this be fun if I did it this way? That's neat.
I absolutely do.
Yeah.
I have another line that I have in my head right now that I want to start working on in January, and it's another art experience, but it's another thing that I'm passionate about in my life.
Yeah.
It actually is bicycles.
Oh,
I'm very passionate about bicycles.
Do you ride bicycles, or you just
I
like
did,
them?
And I rode in France a few times.
Sure.
And I have a Bianchi road bike that is the highest level one. And actually, the name of my company is Chocolat Celeste. And their bicycle team is the Celeste bicycle team.
Oh, neat.
Very few people know that because it's also was my dog's name.
Sure.
And it means heavenly in French.
So you're still thinking of new ways to do things or ideas to recreate things. So the company grows every year. You don't get bored. You add more people. Social media has probably changed things in some ways.
I think that it is, in some ways, more people see it.
Is that good for you? Does that sell more?
Not necessarily. I think it really is that your name continues to appear in front of people. I think that the one thing that sells my product the best is actually good old-fashioned word of mouth.
Yeah.
People that have tasted it, that have liked it. For example, this year at Christmas, I have a lot of new big customers that came from the fact that they had gotten it as a gift. And so, and that they want to give something that their important person in their life will not only love the flavor taste of it, but will also love the look of it too. So there have been, there's very little time in my life ever that I'm not always that I'm not thinking, and that I'm not visualizing
and ideating something. Yeah,
I think that people wonder about me actually when they meet me, and they wonder where my eyes are. And this has been since I was born. Where is she looking? And it's always that I'm looking up or in another direction because I'm visualizing something. In fact, my mother took me to a doctor, and everyone told her that she had to because of the problem that I had with my eyes. And I still do it to this day. And it's that I'm thinking about or visualizing the next step or what I want to create. And it's unusual, and people wonder about it, but it's me.
What percentage of the sales that happens for you in a year happens at Christmas and Valentine's Day?
It's about 60%.
So
it's the majority of the business is at Christmas and Valentine's Day.
And then you're trying to, you could keep...
I actually started creating what Christmas would look like I started last May.
Okay. And then Mother's Day, I would assume.
Mother's Day is a little bit is not really very big because actually Mother's Day, this is not talking about my product the way I should. It's the biggest telephone call day of the entire year. So men just usually call their mothers.
Yeah.
But there is a little bump in that. I think that more than anything, the big majority of what I do is at Christmas.
Yeah.
And that I have people that come in that have it as their annual tradition.
Right.
And that they're there and I only see them once a year, and they actually walk out the door and say, I'll see you next year.
Right.
And I'm thinking, you could come in between if you love it.
Please come in again.
Yeah.
Do you get brides that do custom wedding type designs? And
I actually don't, but I'd like to.
Okay.
I'd like to.
I think
that a lot of people are I'm terribly honest. I shouldn't be this way, but a lot of people start with the wedding cake, and after they've seen the cost of the wedding cake, they go, I can't do anything else. And I think that a lot of the things that are given to guests that are
like favors,
favors, that I believe that someone really would like to have a good piece of chocolate.
Yes.
And really enjoy a good piece of chocolate.
Yes.
Rather than a picture frame or something that would gather dust. I would really, myself, if I ever got married again, I'd want to have chocolate as part of the experience, as a gift for people.
I keep just shouting, yes.
Yes. And I think, and then there's some that I have so many designs that are just gorgeous that could be, that could match the colors in the dresses.
Yeah,
and,
that's neat.
Some newer, more exotic flavor profile. And a lot of things are flowers and plant-based, the designs that are on top of the chocolates. And more people are getting married outside or having flowers in their hair or whatever it is. And I think that just would make a smashing look.
I think at the last wedding I went to, and it was my cousin, so hopefully I'm not throwing him under the bus, but we got laser wood coasters. that said like Charlie and Mary. Well, that's awesome at the wedding, but I honestly have been staring at this 4-pack of coasters thinking, I do not want to use these coasters for Charlie and Mary into perpetuity.
I really do think they end up being funny. In the junk drawer.
Yeah,
or they end up going to the Goodwill or somewhere like that, just as, what they are. But I really think that chocolate's a much better choice. Much better. And I think everybody likes it. There's no one that's, comes in and says, oh, I hate chocolate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're kind of in a strange location. You're off of Cretan Vandalia, and you have this giant billboard that you bought a couple of years ago.
Yes, I love my billboard.
Well, tell me about that, because that seemed like a pretty big marketing statement to put a huge billboard on University Avenue with an arrow.
Well, one of the things that is happening in the food market and the breweries, et cetera, is that they're located in a lot of industrial zones. And I think I was a forerunner in having my business in an industrial zone. And people say, well, why are you located here? And there's a very good reason why I'm located there, is that if I was in a mall, I wouldn't have control of the humidity and the temperature at which everything is made. And so that I have actually a factory there that I welcome people to come in, and I also often take them to the back to show them the conveyor belt and the tank. And I really can control my environment there. And then I'm luckily in an industrial zone that I have a fabulous postal carrier that stops by every day for the packages. I'm near the distributor that I buy chocolate from.
Right.
The dry ice company is across the street. And the other part was that I wanted it to be in a central location between Minneapolis and St. Paul, just like KSTP is.
Right.
But it is that you could get off the highway, buy a box of chocolates, and get back on the highway. And that if I, courier to downtown Minneapolis or downtown St. Paul for a business gift, it's a reasonable price.
Yeah, so that seems like it's been a good location for you.
It's a very good location, and there isn't a lot of other things going on that distract from it. I'm there making chocolate, and that's what I love to do. And I also spend a lot of my life there. And I live on Cretan Avenue. I shouldn't announce that, but I live of 2.5 miles from work, and I don't get on a highway to get to work.
Oh, that's nice.
And if I forget something, or I want to, work on a chocolate, and then I have a stage that has to go through to melt or something, I can go home and walk the dog and come right back.
Yeah. Are there other local chocolatiers doing like bar chocolates that you think do a good job?
I'm really not that familiar. There are two. They're not bar people that I'm in awe of or in admiration of, because bars to me they're okay, but there isn't that extra artfulness. I love to eat it, all that, but there are two others that I consider like to me, and that's Mademoiselle Mille, who does a beautiful job, and also it's very artful and it has honey in it. And then St. Croix chocolates. Those are the three of us I really consider to be real chocolatiers.
When you travel, do you go to chocolate places, or
yes, I
are
do.
you constantly on the quest? Tell me about one of the places you went that was memorable to you.
Well, the most memorable was actually I went to Perpignan, France, and I went to every chocolate business in the town, and that everyone had a little bit different style to it, and their packaging is much more simpler, but their variety of flavor experiences. In France, in particular, most of the chocolates are dark chocolate, and I just love that experience that has the extra fruitiness to it, and that you can I can combine it with some wine in it. It's a third experience, and I love that. And I have plans to visit Barcelona, and I've watched some of the creations that occur in chocolate businesses in Barcelona, where they're maybe creating an entire, landscape for an event that's all in chocolate, and the chocolatiers have a lot of things are in the shape of Spanish tiles with carving in them. And
beautiful.
They and then that their Barcelona at this time and in the past has sometimes been a little bit more dangerous in terms of tourism and things like that. But that you can go to a chocolate shop and you actually have to ring a doorbell to get in, and that it's just a absolutely fabulous visual experience. And I have a doorbell. and people go, well, what do you mean you have a doorbell? And I say, well, because we're working on the chocolate all the time, I can't be standing there waiting for you. I want to be, ring the doorbell and I'll be right there.
Right.
And come back and see what I'm doing. And,
and it's like a greeting.
And it's like a greeting. And also I feel like because it's so much a part of my life, it's in some ways my home.
Yeah.
And, I want it to be that people are greeted right and that it looks perfect. And it's just something in me. So, but I've also traveled. I went to New York City and went to nearly every chocolate shop as well. And I think the U.S. still isn't really making it in terms of what the real visual experience could be. There was one chocolatier when I first started the chocolate business, and it was named Richard, and it was from Paris, and they had little tiny drawers in each one of the boxes that would be little tiny pieces that all had images in it. And the one drawer would be fruit, and one would be liquor, and one would be spices.
Pretty.
And it was just, phenomenal. And that I would like to create something more in that line as well. That was like a complete flavor experience.
Yeah, like a premium line or something.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
Yeah. And then I also have another dog. I named this after my dog as well. I have another dog, Coco, and the other line was going to be Coco Celeste. And that would be one step above.
Yeah, I can see that there might be different grades.
Yeah.
Particularly as the foodie consumers getting more sophisticated and educated. Well, thank you for being my guest today. It was really fun to talk with you about your chocolates, and happy holidays. And this will air during the holiday season, so people can come to Chocolate Celeste. Do you want to give your address out? And
it is 652 Transfer Road.
And that's in
Transfer
St. Paul.
Road is Cleveland Avenue.
So you can ring the doorbell, or you can always go online too at chocolateceleste.com.
Thank you.
Thank you.